A very warm welcome to Aussizz Australian Migration and Education Conclave 2022. This session is going to be a very exciting session. It is about niche courses. We are going to discuss a few niche varieties of STEM courses in this session. Joining me is also a migration agent, Mr. Neerav Patel, who will be talking about the PR aspects of it, while I'll be talking about the course and career aspects, right? Before we start the session, I would like to introduce our viewers to our giveaway. So we have loads and loads of offers for you. We have free 2 months PT online coaching, free CCL coaching. If you are looking at increasing your migration points, free 485 visa consultation, free PR consultation, as well as up to 50% scholarship for a lot of education providers, provided you meet the education providers eligibility requirement for the courses as well. So all you need to do is, if you're enjoying these sessions as much as we are doing, please sound off on social media. We'll be dropping a link, an Instagram link on the comment section now. If you can share your excitement about the conclave, a bit of feedback about the conclave, we'll be picking the best comments and we will be contacting you with all of these giveaways. So get in on the action, sound off on your social media, and we'll be happy to reward you with our giveaways, right? Okay, let's jump straight into the session. I'm going to share my screen. So niche courses. What are some of the niche courses we are going to discuss in this session? Laboratory sciences, biotechnology, psychology, physiotherapy, occupational therapy, and speech pathology. These are rare courses in allied health sciences. And so unless you have a certain amount of affinity towards these careers, you wouldn't be looking for them. So we are here to provide some specialist information about what sort of courses, what sort of entry requirements are required to enter into these courses. How is the job market looking in Australia for these courses, as well as I have Mr. Neerav here who will be delving into the PR pathway. My name is Deepa Rajagopal. I'm the Director of Education at Aussizz Group. I have helped many students secure admissions in these courses, and they have gone on to forge really strong careers in this field as well. So I'll be very happy to share my expertise. So allied health courses, of course, you will make a difference with this career because you will be working in healthcare. Although what is important to understand is that you are not direct health professionals, you are allied health professionals, direct health professionals, or doctors and nurses. However, allied health professionals represent almost third of the Australian workforce in the health fields, right? So you'll be working in a variety of healthcare settings, hospitals, private practices, community health centers, mental health services, care homes. Opportunities are endless, especially considering the post-pandemic setting where we are looking at mental health awareness as well as rehabilitating people. Uh, uh, so opportunities for allied health courses have increased leaps and bounds post-COVID. First career that we are going to delve into is laboratory medicine. It has a very important part to play during the pandemic as well as post-pandemic. So laboratory medicine is the science of diagnosing diseases through body tissues, fluids, medical samples. Basically, diagnosing any diseases caused by microorganism or pathogens all falls under laboratory medicine. So you can understand all the PCR tests that's been done, all the RT-PCR tests that has been done to diagnose COVID all falls under laboratory medicine, and people who are able to diagnose that are called medical laboratory scientists, and at a technician level they're called medical laboratory technicians. So this course is very much in demand and also has a very stable PR pathway as well, which we will explain in detail. So when it comes to the popular courses in laboratory medicine, of course there are vocational level courses as well. Certificate 3 in pathology technology, certificate 3 in laboratory skills, diploma of laboratory technology. You can get some credits if you start at a certificate and a diploma level while you progress into bachelor's. But one has to understand that to qualify as a medical laboratory scientist, you would need a skill level 1 qualification, which means that you must have studied a bachelor's or a master's. And in doing so, I must say that it is very important that you study a course accredited by the Australian Institute of Medical Sciences, AIMS. So all the courses that we are listing here are accredited. The importance of doing an accredited course is that then you can directly qualify for skill assessment without writing a professional exam, as long as you meet the English requirement. So it is very important that you know what are these accredited courses and crack the entry requirement for them. Now, entry into the bachelor's is quite simple. You must have a year 12, preferably in physics, chemistry, maths, biology background. But when it comes to Masters of Laboratory Medicine, which is only available in three universities, RMIT, UTAS, and CDU, you must come from a cognate background, which means a degree, a bachelor's degree in laboratory medicine or a bachelor's degree in biological sciences, medicine, lab technology, biomedical sciences. These are some of the cognate background that one is expected, and you must have a very high GPA as well to qualify. But that in itself is a PR course where, if because it is accredited, once you have an overall 7 each criteria, you can qualify for 189 as well as 190 pathways. Um, and I want to call out here that many universities are running scholarships for this program. CDU has a scholarship of 25% of across the total tuition fee for semester 1 2023 intake for the Master of Laboratory Medicine course. Let's talk a little bit about the career prospects. So now doctors need medical laboratory scientists because they base all their uh, um, diagnosis as well as their clinical decisions are based on the results and information that are supplied by the medical laboratory scientists. So you can work in research centers, you can work in hospital departments in the laboratories, you can work in private pathology providers, you can work in the forensic science department, you can also work in state health laboratories and universities. So these are the common places where medical laboratory scientists find employment. So when it comes to the job market statistics, so the average earning weekly for a professional job in Australia is around $1,500 per week, whereas when it comes to a medical laboratory scientist, its average is around 1,871 per week. Earnings tend to be lower as you start as a junior research scientist and tend to grow higher as you become more experienced. You can see that there is an immediate upturn in terms of employment, with more than 28% increase in the next 1 year. That is, of course, because of the pandemic effect, and it is expected to stabilize in the post-pandemic world, where the next 5 years there is a 15% increase estimated in the job market. Now, all of statistics are from National Skills Commission survey. It is all post-pandemic statistics as recent as November 2021, so that you can rely on them. And yes, so the job market for medical laboratory scientists is thriving. Um, Moving on to the next occupation on our list, psychology. So, psychology is behavioral science study. It is a study of studying the human mind. So, if you have an affinity towards exploring how are people communicating with each other, how do they behave in public place, how do they behave in a private place, if these sort of careers appeal to you, then psychology is a great choice. Um, when it comes to psychology courses, there is a range of option. There is bachelor's, there is graduate diploma as well as masters. Now, when it comes to bachelor of psychology sciences, yes, year 12 is needed, but some universities can put an additional caveat that you must be a mature age entrant, which means that you must be at least above 18 to start this course. And it is commonly available in ACU, ACAP, CQU, CDU, and a range of other universities. I'll talk about the master's in psychology in detail because the entry requirement is a bit tough to crack. Now, what is needed is that for you to study a master's in psychology clinical, you must have studied a 4 year bachelor's in psychology from your home country and also obtain a qualification assessment from APAC, which is the Australian Psychology Accreditation Council. Your qualification must your overseas qualification must be accredited by them, and then the entry is also competitive. You might need letter of references from qualified referees to help your admission into the course, and IELTS 7 each is needed. For example, many universities like Deakin, they ask for 7 each, Toban 6 and 7. When it comes to ACAP, Australian College of Applied Professions, you can get in with 6.5 as well, but that qualification assessment for your overseas bachelor's in psychology is a must, based on which you can get entry into your master's. Uh, Now, when it comes to career prospects, of course, mental health taking preference and care about someone's mental wellness being very prevalent in these times. Psychologists have great opportunities when it comes to job openings. So, but you must have certain accreditation. So, if you complete an accredited course, then you can register with the Psychology Board of Australia. Initially, you may get a provisional registration based on which you can hold general practice. However, if you wish to specialize in a particular psychology like clinical psychology, community psychology, health psychology, sports psychology, then you can go on to practice in a niche area and obtain endorsements with the board according to the area that you're specializing in. When it comes to job market, of course, the average earning for a psychologist is much higher, $1,857 per week. And most find work in healthcare, social assistance, education, public administration, public safety settings. The employment size is growing and it is steady. It is expected to rise up to 8% in the next 5 years. Uh, Moving on to the next niche occupation that we're going to discuss about, physiotherapy. Physiotherapy is basically rehabilitation studies. If it is basically treatment of injury, diseases, disorders without the prescription of medication or surgery, rather through exercise, massage, and rehabilitation treatments, right? And when it comes to physiotherapy, of course, there is Bachelor of Physiotherapy and Masters in Physiotherapy as well. Um, it is best to study an approved program of study that is accredited by AFRA. Some of the accredited programs are listed here: Bachelor of Physiotherapy with ACU, CQU, CSU, Curtin, as well as Masters of Physiotherapy in Swinburne, University of Queensland, and University of Canberra. Now, Bachelor of Physiotherapy, it is relatively easy to gain entry because it is based on year 12. But when it comes to your Masters in Physiotherapy, um, you have to keep in account that universities will only have 30 places max to max per intake, and those 30 places are divided between domestic students as well as international students, right? So what happens is that just because you've done a bachelor's of physiotherapy, there is no assurance that you will gain an entry into the masters of physiotherapy. You must be academically brilliant, must have really good academic merits. On top of that, uh, strong reference letters is also needed, and strong suitability statements about how your educational background as well as work experience motivates you to become a physiotherapist, and what do you hope to achieve by studying a master's of physiotherapy course, which is a statement of suitability that you have to write so that you can secure an entry. Now, Swinburne University and University of Canberra both are offering these courses for semester 2 2022 as well as semester 1 2023 intake. As I said, because the entry is very competitive, you must have really good credentials to showcase. On top of that, there is up to 25% scholarship in University of Canberra for this course, as well as for Swinburne, depending upon the gradient that you've scored in your bachelor's, there is from 10% to 75% scholarship. You can contact our education team if you're interested in any of these courses. Um, Career prospects, of course, a degree in physiotherapy has applications at a range of settings, metropolitan, rural, remote settings as well. You will be working as part of a team that is specializing in healthcare. So you'll be working with doctors and nurses, mainly in rehabilitation centers, in maternity hospitals, in aged care facilities, in private health practices uh, as well as wherever there is a government policy where health promotion and health management policies are in place, you can work in those settings as well. Um, when it comes to job market statistics, of course, amongst all the niche qualifications that we are looking at, physiotherapists have the most the most in demand, and looks like the job market will grow really steadily in the next 5 years. So while when you start out entry level as a physiotherapist, your earnings are similar to the national average earnings, which is around 1,500 per week, and it is expected to grow as you gain experience. But if you look at the statistics, in the next 1 year, it's expected to grow by 25%, and in the next 5 years, it is expected to grow by over 53%. So, physiotherapists, there is a lot of demand in Australia for physiotherapists, and that is reflecting in the surveys as well. The next niche occupation that we're going to look at is occupational therapy. Occupational therapy is basically a holistic alternate science profession where you're dealing with physical, mental, developmental, and emotional ailments of people, and where you are basically helping them get back to their day to day activities post a trauma, post an accident. It is a allied health professional field that is not very prevalent in other countries. It is very much um, catching on in Western societies, but occupational therapists are most in demand because after direct care from doctors and nurses, you need more allied health professionals to help you get back to your normal regular life, right? Now, when it comes to occupational therapy courses, again, I've listed a few that are only accredited by AFRA, approved programs of study that you can do. Bachelor's of Occupational Therapy, you can come from a cognitive science year 12 background where you can get into these courses. But when it comes to Masters of Occupational Therapy, an Australian bachelor or equivalent is needed, and a cognate background is preferred. For example, if you are from sports management or exercise physiology background or physiotherapy background or even a biological science, health science background, you can study these courses as well. Now, to crack the entry, other than meeting the entry requirement, you also have to write a personal statement showing your reflecting your passion and acumen to becoming an occupational therapist. Now, when it comes to job market, of course, in the next 5 years, it is expected to rise steadily for occupational therapists. There is a 77% projected increase in job market as per the National Skills Commission survey. Moving on to the next one, speech pathology. Of course, speech pathologists help children as well as adults in when it comes to communication disorders, difficulty in speaking, listening, social skills, stuttering, writing, or difficulty in using voice, right? There are many popular courses offered by universities when it comes to speech pathologist or a speech therapist. You can study it at a bachelor's as well as master's level. Bachelor's of Speech Pathology available in Southern Cross, Curtin, ECU, ACU, CQU. Masters available in Curtin, Latrobe, as well as in Swinburne. When it comes to career prospects, of course, you can get jobs working along with teams of healthcare providers like clinicians, educators, researchers, policy advisors, managers, advocates, consultants in similar aligned roles. There is a huge demand for speech pathologists in the NDIS, which is the government organized program for taking care of disabled people. And as there is more and more spending and budgets allocation into the NDIS scheme, more and more allied professionals are needed to fill in these gaps and to take care of people as well. So when it comes to job market, there is a steady demand of in the next 5 years an upward trend of up to 33% increase in the employment size, which is at the moment about 12,000 audiologists and speech pathologists and speech therapists at the moment. And if you look at the average earnings as well, there is about 1,800 per week, much higher than the national average. And finally, the niche occupation that we are going to talk about is biotechnology. Biotechnology is also in demand and it is back in the MLTSSL list in the last 2 years. Biotechnology is an amalgamation of technology and biological sciences. Basically, it combines engineering as well as biological sciences so that you can apply the knowledge and findings towards certain products and services that will help in diagnosis of diseases. When it comes to popular courses in biotechnology, we have Bachelor of Science Bio at a bio, at a bachelor's level. Biotechnology courses are far and few in between, but they are available at a master's level. So you can go on to study a Bachelor of Science in Biomedicine, a Bachelor of Health Science, or a Bachelor of Biological Sciences. But at a master's level, you can study a Masters of Biotechnology or a Masters of Bioinformatics, which combines IT and biotechnology. Um, if you are an evolutionary biologist, you will be studying bioinformatics because you will be needing mathematical and analytical tools to basically study about evolution. So that is a combination of biotechnology as well as information sciences. So these are some of the niche courses that are available within the realm of biotechnology. Popular careers, of course, people who are doing biotechnology, they go on to establish uh, careers as research scientist, biotechnologist, molecular biologist, life scientist. When it comes to job demands, it is pretty similar to medical laboratory scientists because there's a lot of demand for people who are involved in researches about microorganisms, about pathogens, about the way communicable diseases are spread. So a lot of funding is going on in research when it comes in this post-pandemic setting. So biotechnology, the demand for people doing research in biotechnology as life scientists, as biotechnologists, uh, is increasing rapidly as well. That's it, guys. So I have spoken about the courses, the entry requirements, and the scholarship when it comes to these niche occupations. Nirav here, he'll be taking the session forward and he'll be talking about the PR pathway for all of these niche occupation. And at the end of the session, we'll be happy to take questions as well. Neeraj, you can continue.
Thank you, Deepa. That was like a good informative for all of the courses, So
Yes,
as
yes.
Deepa discussed about all of their occupations for course pathways and career pathways, I'll be mainly discussing about the skill assessment pathways and the permanent residency pathways for those occupations. And if you have any questions in between, you can put it into the chat box. So we'll try to cover most of the questions at the end of the session. And yeah, let me just try to save the screen. Okay. Yes, Deepa, can you see that?
Yes, I can see.
Yeah, so I'll be covering the different designations like for the different health occupations. So as we know that the popular designations and the occupations in health industries are like medical laboratory scientist, registered nurse. It also has the different specializations in that, like enrolled nurse, nurse practitioners, nurse director, and the general practitioners, pharmacist, pharmacy technician, medical laboratory technician, biotechnologist, occupational therapist. Apart from that, psychologist, physiotherapist, speech pathologist, and all. As Deepa discussed, we already had a good session about the registered nurse in detail, specifically about the nursing courses and the permanent residency pathway earlier today. So if anyone wants to go for that detailed sessions about that, they should subscribe and follow our YouTube channel, as we'll be uploading all that recorded session into the YouTube at the end of the our conclave program. So you can have all the information available over there. So what are the differences coming up in these actually occupations or courses? So some of the major differences are the level of qualification. So some qualification might require diploma, some might require a degree, like some might require a master qualification as well. And Deepa has already discussed about the different course level for each occupation or as per the specialist qualification. And as we know that in current situation due to the COVID pandemic, all of the countries across the world are focusing more towards health, and they want to develop their health industry in a way that, like, if anything any such thing happen in the future in the world, all the countries are capable of doing that. And specifically, Australia is investing more and more amount in health industry and health resources. So in terms of migration as well, this will be a quite popular occupations in like I would say next 10, 15 years, apart from other qualification. So let's just say, so the previous one which I discussed, that was just like popular designation, but these are the actual ANZSCO occupation, which are the ANZSCO occupation immigration nominate for skill migration visas, or for them they can apply for the employer sponsored visas or any temporary employer sponsored visas. So you can say there is a medical laboratory technician which is in the short-term skilled occupation list, and that is assessed by AIMS, and we'll discuss about the skill assessment pathway for that. Then medical laboratory scientist, pathology collector. We have seen lots of invites in a pathology collector and pharmacy technicians in some of the states recently. Then there is a hospital pharmacist, retail pharmacist, industrial pharmacist. So hospital pharmacist and retail pharmacist are assessed by Australian Pharmacy Council, whereas industrial pharmacist assessed with VETASES. And there is an occupation as psychologist that is assessed by Psychologists Society, and it has clinical psychologist, educational psychologist, organizational psychologist, and all are in the long-term skilled occupation list. You can see there is a physiotherapist, speech pathologist, and a biotechnologist as well. So physiotherapist has been assessed by Australian Physiotherapist Council. Speech pathologist is through SPA, and the biotechnologist again through VETASES, same as like industrial pharmacist. So these are the occupations which everyone should look for further, because not many applicants are diversifying their courses or career in these occupations. Like there are less number of applicants who choose this kind of courses. We have seen lots of applicants studying accounting, IT. Now even lots of applicants are doing nursing courses, As there is nothing wrong in doing those courses, but if you want to diversify your career and if you want to be out of the competition, I would suggest try to build up your career in this. You will able to make your a good money as well. At the same time, you will able to get the permanent residency or a pathway easily compared to other occupations. So these are the skill assessment authorities we'll be discussing. So that is like first is ANMAC. So that is like Australian Nursing and Midwifery Accreditation Council, and that is responsible for assessing occupations for nurses like registered nurse, enrolled nurse, and all. AIMS is like Australian Institute of Medical and Clinical Sciences. That is for like medical laboratory scientist and the medical laboratory technician occupation. VET-Assess usually it's responsible for lots of occupations, but as for specifically in health, it is like for pharmacy technician, industrial pharmacist, biotechnologist. So these are the quite popular health courses. There is like primary health organization manager. So that is for like Master of Public Health course. If they want to do assess, they need to go through VET-Assess as well. Pharmacy councils, that is for retail and hospital pharmacists. And for that one, actually applicants need to go through examination process, completing the theoretical and the practical hours before getting the final registration and assessment. And there is an Australian Medical Councils for a medical practitioners. Apart from that, like there is a APS for the speech, for SPA, like for the speech pathologists and psychology as like councils, and also they will be responsible for different other occupations. So for an ANMAC skill assessment, so what will be the major requirements, So ANMAC, as I said, it's responsible for registered nurse and like enrolled nurse. So specifically, first they will request for the APRA registration. So you must need to get the registration from the APRA as a registration authority. Once you have the registration, you can process further with the skill assessment with the ANMAC. And if you don't have the APRA registration, let's say if you didn't complete the accredited study in Australia for a nurse, then you might need to go through a outcome-based assessment pathway for the nurses. So they need to go through a self-assessment check by applying online. They need to do the MCQ exam and the theoretical or clinical examination in Adelaide. So once you complete all of that steps, then you are eligible to get the registration for nurses. If you have not studied the accredited courses in Australia, or if you are not part of the one of the countries listed which is accepted by Australia, like USA, Canada, UK, then they must need to follow this pathway to get the skill assessment for registered nurse and enrolled nurse. AIM skill assessment, so that is for like medical laboratory scientist and medical laboratory technician. So again, like for medical laboratory scientists, if they have completed the accredited courses as per AIMS, then they just need to have like proficient English to get the skill assessment if the course is accredited. If it is not accredited, they might need to go for an examination, or they might and they need to require 2 years of full-time experience as well afterwards. If they want to assess the medical laboratory technician, that is like based on the diploma course, they need to have a 2 years of experience after completing the study. And that experience would be also in last 5 years. And they also assess the occupation pathology collector, which would be the similar requirement as a medical laboratory technician, because it has the same duties and the similar NZ score code as a closely related occupation. So this is the detailed requirement as we discussed for the medical laboratory scientist, and the course level which can be accepted, which is like Bachelor of Medical Laboratory Science, Master of Medical Laboratory Science, then Bachelor of Biomedical Science, Master of Laboratory Medicine, Master of Clinical Pathology. So you must need to make sure that whatever course you are studying in Australia, that should be accredited by AIMS, And if it is accredited, then it will be easier to get the assessment straight away. And once you have an assessment, then you have like lots of options available to apply for a permanent residency pathways. We have enrolled lots of students in these courses because these are like niche courses, as Deepa said, and as the session about. Not many applicants are still doing this kind of courses. So if you if you really want to do, you will be still early in this kind of career, and you will be earning more as well compared to other occupations. So that was for the medical laboratory scientist and medical laboratory technician. So again, that was one of the critical role, as Deepa mentioned, during the COVID time, because whatever results doctors depends are based on the medical laboratory technician or pathology collector who provide their services to them, and all of the doctors mostly relied on this kind of skilled applicants, so that's why we know that there will be very less chance of having less demand of such occupations in future, So, and you just need to complete the diploma and need to get the experience. Or even if you have completed this study overseas outside of Australia for a diploma in laboratory technician courses or similar to that, and if you have a 2 years of experience overseas, they can still accept that one, and you can apply for the skill assessment based on that. So, and you can apply for the permanent residency from offshore as well based on these courses. Vet assess. So, as vet assess is responsible mainly for management related occupations, some of the trade occupations, and some of the health occupations as well. And in the health occupations, it's like, say, for example, for industrial pharmacies, for biotechnologists, or pharmacy technicians, And I mentioned about the primary health organization manager, which is for the master of public health. There is a health information officer as well for the master in health management and all. If you have done such kind of qualification, then you can apply for the skill assessment through vet assess. And vet assess usually assess based on the experience. So if you have completed, let's say, bachelor in pharmacy or bachelor in biotechnology or master in one of that, you need to have minimum 1 year of experience in last 5 years, that is after your qualification, to get assessed with the skill like with vet assess. And you must need to make sure that your duties are aligned with this occupation. So if your duties where you're working is not aligned with the such occupations, like if you are doing a mix of roles and something, they might refuse your skill assessment. So wherever you are working, make sure that you're fully focused on that occupation, doing the duties as per that, and then you'll get the skill assessment particularly for that occupation. For a pharmacy technician, you need to have a minimum of diploma qualification and 1 year of post-qualification experience in last 5 years. So like, and these occupations is also quite popular these days, I believe, because lots of people have studied Bachelor of Pharmacy or Diploma of Pharmacies here as well, or maybe overseas, and they have an experience overseas, so they can apply for the skill assessment based on their overseas study and experience. So people who worked as a dispensary technician, or like, I would say in a chemist or something, for 1 year as per the duties required from NGETSO guidelines, then you can successfully get the skill assessment through vet assess. In pharmacy, there are other two occupations like retail pharmacist and the hospital pharmacist, So those are not assessed by vet assess. It is assessed by a pharmacy, so pharmacy council, and they require you to have like accredited qualification, or you need to go through exam, proper examination, like, through their council. So if you complete their theoretical exam, you get the provisional registration, and you can apply for the or you can use that as a skill assessment and apply for the permanent residency. But for full registration, you need to go for a supervised training, and then you can get the full registration as hospital pharmacist or retail pharmacist. And yeah, so other which is one of the important occupation, which is it is a psychologist. So for a psychologist, they require that you need to have comparable to 6 years of study in psychology in Australia. So if you complete these 6 years of level of study for a psychology in Australia, and if you have a proficient English from one test sitting or a maximum of 2 test sittings in a 6 months period, it should be minimum of 7 overall in each sitting, and you should achieve at least 7 in each component across the 2 sitting, and no score in any component of the test is below 6.5. So if you meet that level of qualification and level of English as per the skill assessment authority, then you are eligible to get the skill assessment as a psychologist. and there is another pathway. Let's say if you don't meet that assessment requirement, if you hold an unconditional general registration as a psychologist through APRA, then also you can get the skill assessment, because there are some countries which qualification can be assessed. You can get the registration straight away through APRA. Then you can just use that registration to apply for the skill assessment. But if you're not holding the registration as per that, then definitely you need to complete the 6 years of study in psychology and need to have that minimum proficient English score as per the assessment authority requirement. Next would be for the physiotherapist. So for a physiotherapist, you need to have a qualification which is completed in Australia, and it is approved as a program for a study, as per the Physiotherapist Council. And if you don't have that, then you need to have a council issue certificate of substantial equivalence after successfully completing the equivalence of qualification pathway. So there is a qualification pathway based on the council issue certificate, or council issue final certificate after successfully completing the standard assessment pathway, or current and unconditional general registration with the Physiotherapy Board of Australia through APRA, or a current and unconditional annual practicing certificate with the Physiotherapy Board of New Zealand, that is through a New Zealand registration authority. And you need to meet the English language requirement as per APRA guideline as well. So if you have studied the accredited course as per the Australian approved university, then you can get the registration and the assessment straight away easily. But if your qualification is not accredited or approved as per the physiotherapist board, then mostly applicants follow their pathway through equivalence of qualification pathway or the standard assessment pathway. So in those pathways, let's say in standard assessment pathway, they need to go through similar like for nurses, they need to submit their documents. So they can't, board will check all the documents are all right and all, and then they will ask them to go for the written examination and then the clinical examination. And once they complete those examination, then they will able to get the skill assessment, and that skill assessment they can use it for the permanent residency pathway. So next one is for the speech pathologist. So for the speech pathologist, actually, you need to have a study which is again approved or accredited qualification in Australia, or you need to have a qualification which is under mutual recognition agreement for the USA, UK, Canada, Ireland, and New Zealand, or you need to have a complete the speech pathology related course overseas. So if your qualification is not accredited in Australia or it is not part of an RMA, then still you can apply based on the competency of the course you did overseas. But with that, they will require your all the documents about the course, what subjects you have done and all. You need to get that OET score as well. And you need to have a minimum 1,000 hours of practice in last 5 years. If you graduated more than 5 years ago, or you have a minimum of 12 months practice experience if you graduated less than 5 years ago. So with the completed competence course, with the English language course, you need to have that 1,000 hours of practice for as a speech pathologist overseas, or in last 5 years, or 1 year of experience if your course was completed in last 5 years and it was not more than 5 years. So based on these evidences, they will say that you have the competency of a speech pathologist in Australia or not, and then they will give you the skill assessment. However, I think for the speech pathologists, they are planning to change their assessment standards in 2023, next year. So we need to check that as well, what they will come up for speech pathologists next year. But mostly it will be similar to this one, as it should not affect with the applicants who are already studying. Yeah, so apart from the speech pathologist, I would suggest about the occupational therapist as well. So for the occupational therapist is also one of the less competitive occupation. So if you completed this study, which is accredited by the APRA Occupational Therapist Council, then you can get the registration and you can get the skill assessment easily, and you can apply for the permanent residency pathway. based on the occupational therapist occupation as well, and what would be the benefits of securing multiple skill assessments actually? So as we have seen that there are lots of occupations in the medical, but sometimes you might be eligible for some specialist occupations assessment as well by doing the same study. For example, let's say if you have done the study in nursing as a registered nurse, then you can register your skill assessment for a nurse as a registered nurse, not elsewhere classified. If you're working specialist as like aged care or mental health nurse, you can request the ANMAC to do the assessment in that occupation as well. So in that way, you can have multiple assessment, and it will help you to explore your permanent residency pathways in a broad way. As if one occupation is not available in any state, you can apply for uh, you can apply based on the other state occupation list. Sometimes some applicants might have studied different course overseas, and they might have studied different course in Australia. So they can apply for the skill assessment based on the both qualification. If they are eligible and if they are different, they can get the benefit of the both skill assessment. So what is MLTSSL? So that is medium and long-term strategic skill list from federal government, So that used to be skilled occupation list before in 2017, but they have changed it to MLTSSL. So usually these used to available for like 189 skill independent visa, 485 graduate work stream, 491 family sponsored, now like 186 direct entry stream employer sponsored visa as well. In one of that like 485 graduate work stream, so they have temporarily removed that skill assessment requirement for a long-term occupation if you have done the diploma for a TR. So currently it will not be available for a TR, and you can apply for the TR straight away without the assessment, even if your occupation doesn't fall into the medium and long-term list. And they have changed, or they have implemented this from 1st of July. So that is good news as well for an applicants who are planning to study diploma of nursing or maybe a diploma of medical laboratory science, So they can get their TR, try to get the registration assessment during that TR for 2 years and apply for the permanent residency pathway. There is another list which is STSOL, so short-term skilled occupation list. So STSOL was replaced with a CSOL, consolidated skilled occupation list, and it is mainly for 190 skill nominated or a 491 nominated by a state or territory. So that is like for regional area sponsorship. So gender skill migration is based on actually your level of qualification, how many points you have, what occupations category you fall under, and you need to have minimum of 65 points. And if you have 65 points and the assessment based on the MLTSSL or STSOL, or even ROL as well, there is a regional occupation list for some of the 491 occupation, then you can apply for the expression of interest for the general skill migration. We will discuss in brief as well about the same. Yeah, so there are like three categories of general skill migration. So one is 189 independent visa pathway. So that is like through straight away from the federal government. So you need to have minimum 65 points independently. You need to have your full skill assessment, minimum of 6 equivalent score in IELTS or in different English language. And this is the permanent residency visa pathway straight away. So if you have a 65 points, if your occupation is in the long-term list, you can apply for a 189 expression of interest straight away. However, like immigration didn't invite many applicants in like last couple of years for a 189, but whichever they invited, they were more focused on health occupations, So we believe that like they will keep continue doing that as well in future. So definitely there are good chances of getting invite for 189. So we have seen like applications got picked for medical laboratory scientists with even 65 to 70 points for 189, which was quite impossible for so many applicants, in different occupations like accounting. Even with 105 points, they were not inviting, So you can see the importance of the occupations as per the Australian requirement, So that's why it's better to go in a course which is not that much competitive, And There is another visa which is 190 state sponsored visa. So that is a sponsored through a state. You need to have a 60 points independently, 5 points from the state, and then you make it 65 and you can apply for the state nomination. Again, it's the same requirement to have a skill assessment, 6 score, and it is a permanent residency pathway straight away. We will discuss about 190,491 requirement for each state in detail as well in the next few slides. There is a 491 regional state sponsorship or relative sponsorship. So regional state sponsorship is through again different states, whereas relative sponsorship is through your family member who are PR and citizen and who are your uncle, aunt, brother, sister, or first cousin, and they are living in regional Australia, then they can give you 15 points. And again, you can only apply for family sponsor if your occupation is in the long-term list. So most of the occupation for medical or health related are in the long-term list. So you can get that benefit for applying for the relative or family sponsorship visa. For 491, you need to have minimum 50 points independently, and 15 points either you get it from the state or relative, and make it 65. And with the skill assessment and the equivalent competence score for English language, we can apply for the expansion of interest. And this is a temporary 5 years of visa, which leads to permanent residency after 3 years. If you complete the 3 years of stay and work in regional and earn minimum of 53,900 every year for 3 years, then you can apply for 191 permanent residency pathway. Okay, now we will discuss about the different state nomination requirement. So for a Victoria, we will start from there. So for a Victoria, so these requirements which I'll be discussing, that was actually for the last financial year, as they have already closed for the last financial year for all of the state. They will come up with the new requirements for this financial year, most likely by end of July or August. So there might be some update in such requirement in these requirements. So you need to contact us maybe like whenever you receive information about having an update from different state, and we can give you a detailed consultation about each state guidelines later on once we have actual requirements from different states. And even the state occupation list will be announced as well. So recently we just got an update from New South Wales today that they will be releasing their skilled occupation list soon for this financial year. So July and August is actually critical, for such information for the whole financial year. So everyone should look forward for those information. So for the last financial year for Victoria, there was a requirement of like living in Victoria for like 190 or 491, and you need to be working in Victoria in nominated occupation in target sectors. If you wanted to apply for the 491, you should have been living and working in regional Victoria to get the invitation. And what were the target sectors they were prioritizing? So they were prioritizing in health, medical, life science, and they were prioritizing some of the digital manufacturing as well. But we have received lots of invites for the medical laboratory scientist and the pharmacy technician and the registered nurse as well for Victoria through 190 and 491. For a New South Wales, so New South Wales for 190 state nomination, there was a requirement of living in New South Wales for 3 months or working in nominated occupation. And whoever have higher EOI points, they used to get the invites. So if you are living over there in New South Wales for 3 months or working in your occupation, and if your occupation is listed on the state occupation list, you can apply for the 190. And for 491, actually there were 3 streams actually. And for stream 1, you need to be living and working in regional New South Wales for 1 year. For stream 2, you should be completing your study over there for 2 years in regional New South Wales. And for stream 3, you need to have a job offer letter or living over there. However, there was no specific requirement for stream 3. Even applicants living outside of New South Wales, they were eligible to apply. But as per the data or the invitations we received, they didn't invite anyone from outside of New South Wales, as they were already having lots of applicants living in regional New South Wales. So if you're planning to apply for stream 3 as well for this financial year, and if they keep the same requirement, then better to move in that particular regional area wherever you want to move and New South Wales, and then apply for the stream 3. South Australia. So for South Australia, there are different pathways, but in general, like in a working pathway, you should be living in South Australia or in Adelaide. And depending on the occupation that we're having, there were different requirements. So you should be working for 6 months, 12 months, 18 months in Greater Adelaide or Outer Regional South Australia to be eligible for 190. And for 491, again same. But for 491, there is to be lesser experience requirement for a working pathway and even for sometime for a graduate pathway as well. So for as a graduate pathway, let's say if you have completed a bachelor or higher qualification and if you're working in your occupation for 3 months in South Australia, then also you can apply based on that pathway. Or there was an exemption for the graduate pathway in some of the occupations where if you have completed PhD or master by research, or you have a 6.0 CGPA in master by coursework, or you have a 6.0 or higher in bachelor degree as well, or in dedicated, you completed dedicated honors year. But this was all the previous year's requirements, as there were like customized requirements for some of the occupations in South Australia. So I would suggest everyone to wait for their updated requirement, and then we can see and we can decide that like you will be eligible as per the new guidelines or not. For a Queensland state nomination, actually there was a requirement of having a 3 months of experience in regional Queensland. So you must be living and working in regional Queensland for 3 months. Before submitting your expression of interest, and you should have your 12 months of employment contract as well, and that experience should be for a full time. Then you can apply for the EUI and you may be invited based on number of the points. And for a 190 state nomination, there used to be a requirement of 6 months of experience requirement immediately before submitting the EUI. And that is again same thing like full time of 6 months of experience. And they used to invite based on the points. So if you have higher points, they will pick your EUI first. For Western Australia, so Western Australia has a different stream like general stream, graduate stream, and all. So most of the health occupation falls under the general stream. And if you have studied over there in Western Australia, or if you have like 1 year of experience anywhere in Australia and a job offer later in Western Australia in your occupation, you can apply for a 190 and 491. And based on the points, usually they invite. So if they have multiple applicants in the same occupation, then they will pick the applicants again who has higher points. And so they have invited applicants with very less points actually in last financial year, as there was a border was closed for interstate for Western Australia with other states. However, for this time, the points might get increased, but not that much because overall quota has been increased by an Australian government. So each state will get definitely an extra extra state allocation. That's we already discussed. Yes, again for the Northern Territory. So for the Northern Territory for 190, so if you have studied over there for 2 years and stay there for 6 months, you can apply for a 190. Or if you didn't stay for 6 months after completing study, you can go for a 491. And if you're living there for 2 years and like if you have 12 months of experience in NT, then you can apply for 190. Or if you're living there for like 12 months and have 6 months of experience, you can go for a 491. So it actually in NT sometime, even if you apply for 190, they try to give a preference for a 491 because they want more applicants to stay in NT. So even if you are meeting the requirement, they might give 491. But if you're applying through graduate pathway and living over there for 6 months, and if you show a good employment opportunities over there, then you have a good chance to get the invite. Okay, so for a Tasmania state nomination, so it is currently closed, and as I said, we are expecting it to open very soon. And most of the health occupations are available. And in the Tasmanian state nomination criteria, there are 2 pathways usually. So one is study pathway. So if you have studied there for 2 years and live there for 2 years, you can apply for 190. If you have studied there for 1 year and live there as well for 1 year, you can apply for 491. And there is a working pathway, which is like having 6 months of full-time work experience in your occupation. and have a contract for 12 months, you can go for 190. And that experience would be in your occupation, whichever you are applying. If you are working in any occupation which is skill level 1 to 3, and that is full time, then you can go for a 491. And sometimes Tasmania as well, even if you're eligible for 190, they can invite you for a 491. So again, Tasmania has this graduate pathway and the working pathway, but they are coming up with the update for their requirements as well very soon. And for the ACT, so ACT is like through Australian Capital Territory from Canberra. So ACT has actually very unique pathway. So if you have completed the Canberra matrix points, then if you have 3 months of experience, you can apply for a 491. If you have a 6 months of full-time experience, you can go for a 190 state nomination. And Canberra matrix actually stands based on the length of stay in Canberra, study in Canberra, how long you worked in Canberra, you haven't any investment in Canberra, or if you have any relatives in Canberra, if your spouse is working over there, whatever is the English language for you or your spouse. So based on all the those criteria, you can apply for the Canberra metrics, and they can invite you whoever has the higher Canberra metrics points. So actually, they are doing the Canberra metrics invitation every weekly or sometime every fortnightly, and they are very constant in like inviting applicants. However, the quota was less last year. Hopefully, we will get more quota in this financial year. So there will be more applicants getting the invites over there. Okay, so we already discussed about the general skill migration visa. Now I will be discussing about the employer sponsor visa in briefly. So general skill migration visa is actually based on your capability. Like you need to have your skill assessment, you need to get the high English language course, you need to get a job. And then if you are selected, you can apply for the permanent residency. Whereas employer sponsor visa, you can rely on your employer if you're working. And if your employer is ready to help you, or if they don't find the required skilled person as in like Australian citizen or permanent resident in Australia, then they can try to sponsor overseas person as well. And you can apply for the temporary skill shortage 482 visa, which has like visa for up to 4 years. So if your occupation in short-term list, you can apply for the 482 for 2 years. You can renew it for another 2 years. If it is for like long-term list, then you can get it up to for 4 years, and that can lead to permanent residency as well. So that permanent residency is 186. So 186 is employer nomination scheme again, which is direct entry stream or TRT stream. So if you're applying through 482, you will fall under TRT stream. So if you're already working on a 482 as a long-term occupation with an employer for 3 years, they can nominate you for TRT stream and you can get the PR. If you don't want to go for a 482, if you already have a 3 years of full-time experience, if you already have a skill assessment and it is as per the long-term skill occupation list, you can go for a 186 visa straight away. And 186 will be a permanent residency pathway, and you need to work with the employer for minimum 2 years after getting the visa. And another one, which is a skill employer sponsor regional provisional 494 visa. So that is similar to 491. Like again, for 5 years visa, you'll get it. You need to work and live in regional for 3 years. But this is an employer sponsor visa. So if there is any regional employer who want to sponsor you, they can sponsor you on 494 visa. You work with them for 3 years. And after 3 years, after earning minimum of 53,900 for and living over there for 3 years, you can apply for a 191 permanent residency pathway based on the 494. Okay, so we want to discuss about the importance of work experience. So as we have seen different visa pathways, like for skill migration, for state nomination, and then for employer sponsored visa, as we can see, there is an importance of work experience in all of the visa. So not only completing the qualification may help you to get the permanent residency here, you must need to try to focus on getting employment as well in your nominated occupation, because if you have an employment, then it will improve your chances for getting PR very high, and it will be very less stressful for you to get the permanent residency. So that's why as soon as you complete your qualification, try to look forward for a job which is related to your occupation, and it can help you to get the permanent residency. This is the current trends which we already discussed, that due to COVID pandemic, all the countries or the Australian government is focusing more on health. So that's why if you're going to the health sector now as well, there will be huge demand as well in the future, and there will be more and more jobs coming up for the health occupations in coming years, most likely. So it won't be a wrong step for anyone to go for a health occupation. And as long as you're getting the registration, license, and working in your occupation, it will be very easy for you to get the permanent residency. These are just the data for the job advertisement, which states that the growth of the jobs availability for health industries and all, so it is increased in city and it is also increased dramatically for the regional Australia as well, So it's not like that if you go to any regional area, you will not get the job. And there are lots of jobs available in regional areas as well currently in Australia, in most of the industry, but specifically in health industry as well. And these are the future demand for health professional as per the data available, So it states that it is a very strong future for the health diagnosis and promotion professionals, health therapists professionals, medical practitioners, nursing professionals, so at least strong to moderate. So all of these occupations have very bright future in as per the government as well, because they see that they will definitely require these kind of occupations in near future. Yes, so actually we finished with the presentation. And yes, Deepa, actually we can try to cover off the questions,
Yes.
if you have.
So I will read out the questions for you, Nirav, so that you can answer. I have BSc, MSc, Organic Chemistry done in 2019, and then B.Ed distance during pandemic. What are the best courses for me in Western Australia? How much experience do I need before applying for good skill assessment and PR? I've answered this question on the course.
Yeah.
They can do UWA Masters of Clinical Pathology, which is accredited by AIMS. Again, you will get laboratory medicine skill assessment, which can give them opportunity for 189 as well as 190 and 491, depending upon the state. Uh, how much experience do they need for skill assessment? I suppose there's no experience needed if you do an accredited course, right?
If they go, let's say, because she has studied BSc, MSc Organic Chemistry, so if they
Right.
apply based on that, then that occupation most likely will falls under AVATSS, So they
Yes.
require 1 year of experience if they apply based on that.
Yeah.
Try to choose a different course which we discussed today. So if
Yeah.
they have an accredited course as per let's say medical laboratory scientist or something, then they can get the skill assessment straight away. And for an experience requirement, it all depends. Most likely, if you work there for 6 months to 1 year, you have a good chance to get the invite. And
Right.
of the occupation, they might require only job offer letter as well. So it all
Yeah.
depends which course you will choose and what will be again the requirement after 2 years as well.
Do Australian masters have any kind of quota system for international students if they have accredited course? Uh, there is no particular quota system. There's the last question.
That's last question.
Yeah, that is on the comment box. It says, do Australian masters have any kind of quota system for international students? Um,
Means I think he is asking that, let's say, if there are any limitations in enrolling the course, it depends. So let's say if the university has 60 seats, if it gets filled out in this intake, you need to go for the next intake, So, and sometimes these courses, it all depends because local students usually study these courses as well, I think, right, Deepa?
Right, right. So, courses like psychology, courses like laboratory medicine do, of course, have a quota. Sometimes only 30 seats per intake.
Yes.
So, then entry becomes competitive. However, let's say for courses like biotechnology, there is no quota system needed. There is enough batches run by every university. So it depends on it's on a case to case basis. Um, Another question that I would like to pick out is from Abigail. If one takes bachelor's in biotechnology, graduates, and earns at least 1 year of experience as a biotechnologist, he or she can they apply for PR?
Yes, so let's say if you have studied Bachelor of Biotechnology or Master of Biotechnology, and after that, if you have 1 year of experience in biotechnology, you can get the skill assessment as a biotechnologist through assess. And the Australian government is also inviting invitation for that occupation, but it depends which state you are applying. For example, we have received invitation for biotechnologist through New South Wales, so, and that too around 80 or 85 points. So I believe that, let's say if you're completing the requirement for skill assessment, you get good options to apply for different state. But it will depend in which state you are applying, or if you're applying for offshore. It was actually not quite open for last financial year, but I think immigration will focus more for offshore applications as well this year. So you may expect the invitation from offshore, for most of the health occupations.
Right. And Amin, he had asked this question previously as well. I did Masters of Honors in Microbiology from India. In Australia, I did Masters of Laboratory Quality Analysis and Management from Macquarie University. Now I'm doing Quality Assurance Officer job in food processing company. I want to know how I can assess my degree and what is the PR pathway for microbiologist. So,
Yes. So yes, Deepa, in that one actually he has studied bachelor or master in microbiology, right? First,
correct.
and then master in medical quality
In laboratory quality analysis.
quality analysis management. So
Yeah.
definitely based on the bachelor, if you want to go, then it should be microbiology skill assessment.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to have a NJET score duties for microbiologists to get the skill assessment. So you need to have minimum of 1 year of experience based on that.
Yes.
And if, let's say, if he's working in food industry, then
Mm-hmm.
it's food technologist, but for that
Correct.
require a food technologist qualification. So if he has not studied the subjects as per the food technologist requirement into his qualification, then he might not able to use his experience for the food technologist occupation. So better to go as per the microbiologist duties, and then he can get the skill assessment.
Right. Um, I have MS in biotechnology and a bit of work experience as a medical lab technician. Would you suggest to do skill assessment through AIMS or VETSS for biotechnology?
Yeah, for a biotechnology, definitely you need to go through vet assess, but as I mentioned earlier, you must need to have an experience or duties as per biotechnology. So if you have experience as a medical laboratory technician, and if you're applying with vet assess for a biotechnologist, it will get refused. Or even it's the same thing, like say if you have studied master in biotechnology, and if you have an experience as medical laboratory technician in applying it through AIMS, they can refuse. So you need to match the qualification and match the experience. Then only you will get a successful in getting skill assessment.
Right. Aditi wants you to discuss in brief PR pathway for engineering technologist. I suppose she's on a 476 visa, but wants to know PR pathway for engineering technologist.
Yes, Aditya, actually, we did this session for the health occupations. I think, Deepa, we should have the engineering pathways
Session.
permanent residency, right?
Yes.
So we can request
Uh,
her to join that session.
Aditi, we had earlier yesterday, we had a session on engineering occupations and PR pathway. It would be difficult for us to give you an entire brief on it because this is about STEM occupations and health occupations. All the recordings will be uploaded on YouTube after the end of the 5 day conclave over the weekend. But if you need a personalized consultation session, I'm just leaving an email as a reply to you in the comment section. Could you please email your details to events@aussizgroup.com? We can schedule a one-to-one consultation for you and take your query further. I've just dropped the email in the comment box. We will be sticking to questions related to the niche occupations that we were discussing today, guys. Uh, Ravi, is this the correct discussion for PR aspirants having IT background? I'm sorry, Ravi, that was yesterday. We had a 2 hour session on IT courses. and PR pathways. We will be uploading that on YouTube. But again, if you think that you would need a one-to-one consultation, please write to us on events@aussizgroup.com, leaving your details, and we'll schedule a virtual consultation for you with our migration agents. Right. I am doing masters in South Australia and will register as a psychotherapist. However, I'm thinking of staying in Western Australia. Is it easier to get PR from Western Australia or South Australia? Can I apply for 190 if I get skill assessment? I also have my husband's brother who can nominate us in WA. So they are asking whether Western Australia is better or South Australia is better for psychotherapist. Skill
So it's
assessment
actually,
likely to get.
let's say if they like study, if they already studied master in essay and if they try to get the job in essay, then they should get
Yes.
the 491 or 190 maybe in 6 months to 1 year, you know. However, for WA as well, let's say if they go there and if they complete 1 year of experience over there, there could be chances to get the invite for 190 for WA as well. And again, like for their her husband's brother, they can nominate for 491 family sponsored visa if he's PR or citizen and
Mm-hmm.
regional Australia. So WA is all over is regional, so that's fine. So definitely, your husband brother can nominate you and your husband if you and your husband are applying together.
Um, okay. Just scrolling through the other questions related to STEM here. Good morning. Kindly assist me with info on nursing profession. Nompilo, again, nursing session was today in the morning. The recording will be uploaded on YouTube over the weekend. However, if you need personal consultation, you can email it at events@aussizgroup.com and we can schedule a consultation for you. Uh, okay, Vishy is asking, in last financial year, 491 visa was listed for chemist and life scientist occupations under no work experience category. Is there a certain GPA that they consider in offering 491 invitations for those occupations? I mean by GPA is asking for criteria.
I think, yeah, for the South Australia state nomination, they're asking. So for South Australia,
Okay.
there's a graduate pathway, and if you have certain CGPA, then you can apply for the state nomination without experience as well. So if again, let's say if they come up with the same requirement this year, and if your occupation has that exemption available, and if you have studied over there, then there might not be requirement of having an experience as well in Adelaide, and you can apply for 491. But again, we need to see because Adelaide used to have that customized requirement, for each occupation last financial year, and they might come up with the same update as well, in this year.
Okay. All right. Uh, and a follow-up question for Sheena, who was an SA graduate, was thinking about Western Australia or South Australia. If I apply for SA talent program or 190, do I have to stay in SA for a specific time period?
Definitely, Sina. Yes, if you apply for a 190 in essay, you must need to continue staying in essay if you apply based on living in essay, because let's say if you move in different state after applying your invitation, if they get to know or if you update your address over there, they can cancel your state nomination, during the visa process because you are applying for state application as you are willing to stay in essay. If you're not planning to stay in essay, then they will not invite you.
Yes. We're also getting positive feedback on the presentation. Thank you guys for recognizing our work. But we do encourage that you get in touch with us for personalized consultation. Please write to events@aussizgroup.com and we can schedule consultations for you in the following week. That's a roundup of questions. We've answered, pretty much picked up all the questions for STEM, right? Guys, thank you so much. That's a wrap of day 2 of our conclave. Now, day 3 brings in more interesting prospects, more interesting opportunities because we are going to discuss about trade programs. Many students here tend to navigate towards trade program because you upskill yourself as well as it is offering a easier pathway for permanent residency as well. So we are covering construction management courses. We are covering cookery, automotive. We are covering all courses related to building and constructions, carpentry, wall tiling. We have at least 6 to 7 sessions happening back to back tomorrow. So do tune in tomorrow. It starts at 12 p.m. Australian time, AEST. Please spread the word amongst your friends as well who may find it useful. I think we can take one last question, Neerav. I'm doing Masters of Public Health at Macquarie. I've graduated as a nutritionist dietitian and have around 8+ years of work experience in my home country, Bangladesh. Do I have any option to apply for PR?
Yes, Apsana, actually, again, this one in your study and your experience doesn't match together, So if you have studied related to nutritionist or dietitian, then you can apply. Or if you study something now and if you get an experience later after completing the study or while studying, then based on that qualification and experience, you can apply for the skill assessment and then you can apply for the PR. Because for Master of Public Health, you must need to have an experience as a primary health organization manager. After having 1 year of experience, you can get the skill assessment. But here, experience doesn't match with the qualification.
All right. Okay. Um, Thank you guys. Just that's a wrap of session today. I am leaving our conclave registration link. You can register for tomorrow's session or pass this link to people who may find it helpful. Just a moment, guys. All right, here I go. The registration link for the conclave is coming up on your screens in the chat box. Yeah. And also, Shalin here has dropped all the links for tomorrow's session that is starting at 12 noon AEST. We look forward to having you tomorrow as well. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Neera, for the presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.